Welcome to the Unfiltered podcast, where we explore life's journeys without the constraints of filters. In a world saturated with highlight reels, we dive deep into the true essence of individual experiences, offering our listeners an uncensored glimpse into the triumphs, the struggles, and the transformative moments that define us. Our mission here is to provide hope, inspire resilience, and remind you that every path, no matter how windy or rocky, can lead to growth and enlightenment. Join us as we navigate the uncharted territories of truth and be moved, be inspired, and discover that you are not alone in this unfiltered journey of life. Hey everyone, I'm Trinity Baker, mindset expert and life coach. I am a co-host of The Unfiltered Path, and here with me is...
Hi, I'm Danielle Hirsch. I am the owner of Ariel Jade, and I am a co-host here with...
My name is Graham Duval. I'm the owner of Duval-Valüd Productions, video marketing strategist, and I am also a co-host here on the Unfiltered Path. Super excited to be here this morning.
Super pumped. Danielle, get us started off on today's episode.
Okay, so I have a few questions here to pick from. May I just say I'm an aerialist? Because I did mention that, and that might be important.
Okay, so and when you picture aerialist, I want you to picture Danielle and her beautiful voice hanging from the ceiling like a bird.
Yeah.
Bird of the circus.
The bird of the circus. That's right. I appreciate Trinity. Trinity does it too. In what place or situation, more than any other, would you feel completely out of your element or comfort zone?
Okay, here?
We were on the podcast?
Yeah, no, we were just talking about this, right? Like where we have to step out of our comfort zone. And I don't that, personally, a year ago, if you told me that I was going to be on a podcast, I'd be like, yeah, okay. And how many experiences have we had like that?
Most definitely. That's a tough question. I like to think that I am a type of person that adapts to situations so that when it is like that feeling of uncomfortable situation, like I can do something to either get comfortable or remove myself from that situation. So it's hard for me to even like wrap my mind around the concept of that just because of, like it's such a fine line like we were talking about, you're in that uncomfortable zone, but like that's the thing that's going to get you to that next thing because you're pushing through it or whatever, you know what I mean? So I would have to say though, probably the biggest one, if you were putting like an actual like place, is like around a bunch of drunk people. So
that is not I'm not against that answer either, and I'm proud that you found something.
Yeah.
My mind immediately attached to the word element, and I was like, Antarctica, Alaska. It is enough. Like, because when you said here, I was like kind of agreeing.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like, I think what we'll find, like, okay, so think about this. Think about this for a second. In your past, even the past years, 3 years on our unfiltered path, how many times have you said, oh crap, like, I really don't want to do this. And then it ends up being one of those pivotal moments of your business that makes or breaks you. And then have you taken the time to actually look at that and be like, wow, thank God I stepped out of my comfort zone?
Most definitely.
Yeah. That's how I felt about being a parent.
That's how I feel every day as
oh God.
Are we talking every day parenting? Because I still feel like that 9 years later.
In general. I mean, my kid is 8 going on 9, and that really set in this morning. I was like, I still don't feel like I understand how to be a parent.
Yeah, no, his birthday was ago. I had that exact thought. I'm like, wow, we're halfway through this, and I still have no idea what I'm doing.
Dude. Yeah, for real.
So what I'm sitting here thinking, and with Graham here, perfect way to talk about, wow, I met Graham and we talked about video production for my business. And I'm one of those like, okay, it's really uncomfortable. I'm just going to dive in. I'm really great at honing in on my ability to just be like, yeah, I really don't want to do this, but let's just do it anyway. And so I did that with Graham, and thank God I did, because I learned everything I do now with my reels for my business, and that's how I spread my positive messages and what I offer and just the positive ripple into the world. I would not be here doing this if I didn't say yes in video production for my business.
Oh, he's valuable. His last presentation was very informative, to the point where I looked at him and I was like, I know you just gave us something for free. Like, you know, like I gave you that credit because I was like, that was so informative. Like, you know, that concept of teaching people how to fish.
Exactly.
It had that work out for me and not work out for me, if I'm being incredibly transparent. But at the end of the day, you know, that's how the soul gets fed.
Most
and
definitely.
so, yeah, so shout out to Graham and that. Yeah, I'm glad you did that. You know, it was a big time for you because, during one of our random pep talks, who knows, I probably called her like on the edge of something. And I was like, you know what it is, Trinity? Our superpower is winging it. Why do we keep planning like other people?
Yeah.
And do you remember us both being like, okay, I didn't have a routine done. You were going through, you were transitioning to being a positive mindset, which you were already living that life, but you were transitioning to the like that whole side. And I remember saying it, just freaking wing it.
Yeah.
All about winging it. You know, that it just like describes the way I live my life and my business, the music that I play. You know what I mean? As a musician, my favorite type of music is like improv music and like being in the moment, you know, and so like all that stuff is just it produces the best, like what is supposed to be at this very moment. You know what I mean? And like from business to pleasure, you know? So it's like, I think that is such a great concept, and it's definitely how I live my life. Because sometimes in business, I'm like, man, I don't know why people are paying me to do this.
Oh my God, my whole circus training, like my work experience, I was recruited by the cast of Circus Olay. So I've been around the best of the best information. I don't know why, but the universe always blesses me with that. But my entire work thing was, I mean, I would be painted head to toe and walking around a club, or above a club freestyling. And you never know, you have to know when a DJ is going to drop a beat without knowing when the DJ is going to drop a beat. And that is literally my work experience. And, you know, here we are a decade later, and it just, apparently I still perform in a very similar way, but I also apply it to a lot of my techniques towards running the business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, how would I give it up by now?
Well, here's the thing. So like one of these common complaints, or I'd say challenges we run through, is this imposter syndrome. And I don't think that it's specific to businesses, because I remember looking back 9 years ago, I mean, I had imposter syndrome when I was a new mom. Like, what? I would have no idea what to do. So like that's where imposter syndrome comes from, is because we think we have to have it all figured out. We think that it has to be this perfect business plan or a life plan where we have these goals and we have these visions. And don't get me wrong, goals and visions are so important, because that's what motivates us and drives us and keeps us going when we don't feel like going, and kind of gives us this roadmap, right? But guys, take a detour. Like the detours of my roadmap have been the best detours ever.
Totally. And then it's such an interesting thing too, because like if you're talking about it like in a detour, like that detour ends up becoming the main street. And then, you know what I mean? Then you take another detour, and then now you're like on this other main road that's like leading you somewhere else. And yeah, that's a great concept. I love that.
Oh, true. Yeah. I'm literally living in a detour right now. Literally. I mean,
that's
it's like,
that's a good bumper sticker.
My detour
living in a detour.
That is a good bumper sticker. I would not put it on my car, but I would put it on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Yep.
Heck yeah.
Or a hoodie or something. That's nice. I like that.
I dig that.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the thing, right? I challenge our listeners to think, what detour were you dreading? What detour were you like, oh, I really don't want to do this, or why me, or I'm so unlucky, and all those negative thoughts towards it, but you were forced into it. Well, guys, that's the universe or whatever higher power you believe in pushing you to the right direction because you were going in the wrong direction.
Most
I
definitely.
would have never painted if I didn't get pregnant, was like stuck in Maine without the resources of Orlando. I literally sat there and taught myself how to paint and then started the business and then was like, hey, by the way, I'm an aerialist. And when I can, that's what I'm going to address. But for so I built the business on painting, and that was I was visiting Maine when I got pregnant. That whole situation's a detour. I was literally living in Florida. It was kind of a rough spot. Like you said, I was being detoured out. And I stayed for a bit because my parents got sick, and, a fashion show. Detour.
I mean, but like, and I know no details of that at all. And I know no details, but you had to be forced to stay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at
my parents were getting sick. I hurt myself, so I left Orlando because I was hurt. So I visited here because I couldn't train, and they said 6 months. That's a long time to an athlete. And so I came home to chill with them, and then they got sick to keep me to stay. And then my roommate was little, like whatever at the time. And then I met their dad. It was interesting too, because as much as like that's not like some fairy tale scenario, I still knew he was a part of my story. To this day, right. I don't doubt it. Like, I don't doubt him. Like, his mom was an art teacher. His grandfather was a professional soccer player. Like, genetically speaking, my children were supposed to be this existence. And, so that's just anyway, that was a detour.
I think it's super important too that in that challenge, that everybody's listening, like accepting that detour and whatnot, having, and this kind of goes to like what we talk about is that mindset, because having that mindset to really like either recognize that it's a detour or recognize that it's uncomfortable, because if you don't, you can get lost, like you can let it lose you, you know what I mean? And you get lost in the woods on that detour. And then, you know what I mean? Unless you have that right train of thought where you're like, oh, okay, this is something that's leading me somewhere that I need to then either push through, correct course, or like do something to move on. You know what I mean?
Without awareness of it, it feels like trauma. But then, the mindset and those type of things that can start to, you start to recognize it, or it doesn't get to that level.
Exactly. Definitely can like feel very traumatic. If you're not like recognizing what's going on, or at least like being open to the possibility that like, hey, maybe something's pushing me in a certain area, you know what I mean? It can feel like you're drowning, you know what I mean? If you're
enjoying for like 3 years.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, but then being able to course correct and realize that you're coming out of it a stronger person, that acceptance of like, it is part of your story, all this stuff. And like, it's just a super important piece of that challenge to be like, okay, this is that detour. Am I in a detour that I need to live in for a minute and like feel that crap? Or do I need to like push through right away? Or like just analyzing and like feeling and seeing what is going on,
It takes a lot of, you have to dissect, you have to dig, you have to ask, you have to listen, you have to observe, like
heal. Like, I think healing is usually like how we cope over things. Like, I feel like learning coping skills is what I've been learning. That's what it is.
Have like this toolbox of things that help us through situations, and we use a different tool, just like when you're building a house. I'm certainly no home builder, but you're not going to use a hammer for everything. You're not going to use a drill for everything. You got different sides in whatever, you build a house with. But yeah, I was, as you're sitting here thinking about this cliche saying that everyone says, right? It's everything happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, things are written, like, I believe we're co-creators with the universe, right? So there's a responsibility of our own, but there's also a surrender that kind of happens. Or like, I love one of my ways of healing, and I don't push this on anyone, but one of the ways of healing was knowing that I designed my life. So I chose my mom. I chose no dad. I chose this to become XYZ, or to go through XYZ, as much as I chose my kid's dad. You know what I'm saying? When I started to see my life from that perspective, people like have some extreme opinions, like, oh, but what about sick babies? They didn't ask for that, or like all these things. But I'm like, but if you really just kind of stop, for at least me, the minute I had that level of accountability and control over my own existence, it really took like, oh my God. But then and then all of a sudden I saw that negative thing led me here. And then I went here, and then I ended up here. And, some of my experience is so inspiring because it came from the cracks of the ground. I was not supposed to be like this.
Right.
The bubble after, like, I mean, okay, so like I think about how did I develop the mindset hack, the foundation that everyone coming into my business. And I'll tell you this exactly. I was in a deep depression. My life was falling apart, literally falling apart at the seams. And I said, why? And this was the first time that I can acknowledge that I heard a message that said, figure a way out of it and teach others. And that's what I did. And then everything unfolded after that. My life picked pieces back up, and it's even better than it was a year after. I mean, a year ago was when I went through this depression, and where I am today is just insanity, because you have no idea. Listen, we have no idea what tomorrow brings.
I think that
we just lived a scenario to prove we don't know what happens tomorrow.
I think the key point that you said, Danielle, and that you, Trinity, that we were talking about before we started this episode today was the surrendering. You know what I mean? Like surrendering to that universal power or whatever situation, or the yes of whatever it is, or there's so much that could be coming your way in life that surrendering to that is going to be the thing that helps with that mindset through whatever detour, like helps you move through that other stuff. Fine. Yet it just, there's so much that surrendering to the flow is going to, help with. And I think that's one of the key pieces of what you guys were talking about.
Yeah. I've been recommending this book like I wrote it, or I didn't write it. I feel like it's just such a powerful book in my mind and in my world, and everyone I've recommended read it has felt 100% the same. It's called The Surrender Experiment, and it's by this world-known author, Michael Singer, and it literally talks about that. But what it does is it not only talks about how you surrender and how important it is and how you actually do it. What Michael talks about and proves in his book is over and over and over what happened when he surrendered. And he is a billionaire, and what he went through in his life would not have happened if he didn't surrender.
It's true. So I struggle with it. I don't let go easy. It's a perk and it's not. So I think currently surrendering, because sometimes I feel like giving up because I'm a single mom. So I know that's not an excuse, but sometimes I just don't feel like I'm enough because I'm technically not. But surrendering for me is doing like breathing practices, but almost like grounding myself, not so much in what's happening, but that I'm actually on Earth.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
That has been hopeful. Like I sit down and I try to get to 3 sets of 30 breaths, and I have not gotten past my second set in 2 weeks of trying this. So it shows, one, I have not completely surrendered. but two, that I at least am trying. So that's what I've been doing, just to remember, oh my God, I'm on Earth. I'm here. And so that all this other distraction, while it feels powerful, it's really not. So that's what I do for practice.
Yeah. One of the powerful things, I have a lot of my clients who are stuck in the moment, whether that moment be good or we label it as bad, right? I have them ask themselves, will this matter a year from now? Will this matter? Will this matter next week, next month? And if the answer is no, then stop wasting emotional energy on it, because our emotional energy is like, okay, so we're like a vehicle, and every day life like fuels us up. We have this fuel tank of emotional energy. We wake up in the morning, and if the first thing you do is think, oh my God, I have so much to do today, oh, emotional energy gone. And so we control how much we allow to come out, and then we control how much we allow others to take out. And when you realize you have that power, it's almost like driving around when you only have one tank of gas in your car, and you know that you got to get, all from point A to point B, which is from the morning to the night, right? And it's like driving around aimlessly, wasting your fuel. And then you're mad because by noon, you're out of gas. Well, we have control of that. No one else but us has control of that.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. So true.
You tell my crazy little mind that again.
Well, I do. That's the thing, is it's a daily practice.
Right.
It's a daily practice, and what helps me in that concept and like thinking about it is like, I mean, I relate a lot, like as a video marketer and a musician, I relate a lot of stuff to music. And so for me, it's like, I play the drums. I didn't sit down 25 years ago when I first started to play the drums and play the way that I do now. You know what I mean? It's taken all that practice. And so the same thing with like, surrendering and like what you were talking about, like, it's just like, okay, what am I doing today to practice getting better at, extending that fuel tank, or getting to those 30 breaths, or, moving through to the next phase of my business, or helping a client, or, you know what I mean? Like, what am I doing today that is going to help with that? And, you may get a little better the next day, but it's just, it reminds me of that saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, So.
No, there's a reason why don't go through a month, a 30-day period. There's a reason why a month is broken down into 30 days. And there's a reason why 30 days is broken down into 24 hours, and 24 hours is broken down into minutes and into seconds. Because we have to break it down. And so I really don't ever goal set with my clients because of that. It is almost, goal setting can be, for the majority of humans, very disempowering. So we don't set goals. We don't have coaching goals. We have visions and dreams, and I make a roadmap for them that they never even see. And in 3 months, they're there. And they had no idea. We didn't set goals. We had vision. I want to be happy. I want to wake up in the morning at 5 a.m. and feel like excited to wake up. Hey, we could call those goals, or we can say those are my visions and my dreams, and then we can make a roadmap to get there. It's no different, but it's the wording that we use.
Most definitely.
So let's end our little bit of chat here we have left with another fun question. And it kind of aligns to something we've been talking about, but not what we would talk about. If a professional musician of your choice were willing to entertain you with a 20-minute private concert, whose talents would you request and what songs would be played? You don't have to go into detail. You can be vague, but 20 minutes with a musician, who would it be?
Listen, we were just talking about this before we started the podcast. I'm thinking it's gotta start right when we come on, because we have such great conversation, which is why we're here. But I was talking about Kid Rock, okay? So Kid Rock is my idol, and not because I know it sounds funny, right? But he is straightforward. He is firm and true to who he is and his beliefs, regardless of whether 99.5% of America agrees with him. And so back in his early career, they told him, like, you got to stop. You're never going to go anywhere with these beliefs because you are wholeheartedly like just blunt and out there and so true to yourself that you are not going to fit in. No one's going to come to your concerts. And so a year ago, I went to one of his concerts, and I was telling Graham, like, first concert I ever went to, well, I shouldn't say that. I went to a concert when I was pregnant, so obviously I was sober then, but it was the first concert I voluntarily stayed sober at. And it was the best concert in the entire world because I was so empowered and enlightened by his trueness, his realness, that it then empowered me to continue with my business and what I'm doing. Because listen, not everyone agrees with positivity. People tell me that it is ridiculous and that it is, you know, you're hiding away from the real world troubles and you're not acknowledging them. And it's the total opposite. But I can't change that. I'm never going to change it. Just like Kid Rock is never going to change the fans that don't like him or the people that don't like him and don't agree with him. But he persevered. So I would have him for 20 minutes. And would I have him play for me? Sure. I'd probably have him play a song, right? But what I really want to know is his brain. I want to know his brain and how he got and how he persevered.
Yeah.
Forward, right?
Totally. So I was thinking that I'm like, there's musicians, but then there's musicians I would want to talk to. It's true. I wrote a paper on 50 Cent in college. 50 Cent for reinventing water, Nas for investing in small business, and Master P for investing in real estate and how the hip hop was creating, you know, business models.
Yeah.
But purely for 20 minutes of enjoyment, it would be Alicia Keys.
Nice.
That's
Alicia Keys, where is that?
So I feel like I would want to meet 50 Cent because he is a film editor. I would love to be in a film or participate in that someday. But he's also a business mogul. He's some of my favorite motivational, and not even that they're super positive, but they're always delivered funny, or he's very charismatic. So it's always delivered in a way that's nice, but very straightforward. So that's my answer. I can't. That's
a good one. That's a good one. I like the hip hop business model thing. So true. I think that's amazing.
Well, for me growing up, I only thought, so I went through a lot of darkness as a kid, right? So it is what it is. So I found that hip hop I could heal with, where other music wasn't talking about things dark enough to even understand what I had been through.
For sure.
So for me, hip hop was huge. So by the time I got to college, I started seeing it, you know, from the mature mind of business and how it's new. It's at the time was a newer market. So it was always intriguing to me.
Eminem talks a lot about that in his songs too, is like change the world, but I want to change the world for one person. And I think that's really like looking at that message. I think that's what he means is like giving hope in some way, somehow. And like 50 Cent did that for you. Listen, rock on. That's amazing.
That's true.
What about you?
Yeah, that's a real tough one for me. I think I don't know if they have to be alive, but I think
they do, because that's why I would have totally been
so if they don't have to be alive, it would be John Lennon. Just from and alive, I think I don't know. Trey Anastasio is probably one of my bigger idols, just because the type of music that he plays, and then the fact that he's had a similar journey as myself, from going from that like darker side of music and drugs and rock and roll to being like 15 years sober and all this stuff now. And so I think that's who I would be, just to pick his brain and listen.
Who is that?
Trey. He's the lead guitarist for the band Fish.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And again, songs. I mean, right? So we're talking a lot of different genres here.
Totally.
If you listen to the lyrics of Fish's songs, so powerful.
Yeah, most definitely. They have a interesting look on the world, for sure.
You take the song Many Men, which is one of the darkest songs 50 Cent wrote, and I changed 2 words throughout the song. It completely relates to my childhood.
Yeah. That is a powerful song. Oh, that's true. So true. Hey, this was an amazing Amazing episode. We hope our listeners are enjoying this. Listen, we want to make sure that we are unfiltered. We're raw. We are telling you that the truths, the darks, the lights, and everywhere in between of our journeys, because we want to give you hope. I mean, we started talking about that before we went live today. Is we want to give hope to those, wherever you are on your path. We promise you, we've gone through it all. We will continue to go through it all. Like every day is dark and light, every day. So continue to tune in. I am Trinity Baker. I am a mindset coach, mindset expert, love empowering, and my co-host,
Danielle Hirsch. I'm an aerialist. I perform and I teach.
Awesome. And my name is Graham Duval, owner of Valued Productions. You can actually find me online at Valued Productions, Instagram, or valuedproductions.com. Trinity, Danielle, where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, so I'm on all the socials, right? And I try to keep things really easy for you. It's thetrinitybaker.com, which is all across all of my socials. So the Trinity Baker, TikTok, Facebook, all those good things. And don't forget to follow us on all the socials too. The Unfiltered Path Podcast. You can find us. Danielle, what about you?
Yeah, so I have live chatting on my website. So that's my favorite. It's arielj.com, and it's spelled Ariel like Aerial View versus Ariel, the beautiful mermaid. And you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, but definitely follow the Unfiltered Path on Instagram. I quite love that.
Awesome.
Thank you everyone for listening today. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Unfiltered Podcast. Boom.